Hey boys and girls, welcome back once again. Jim here, and I'm going to bring out to you something quite a bit different than what I typically bring out. You guys know I'm not a huge fan of really tiny knives, although I do see their place in our EDC rotations. This is something out of the norm for that, as well as having an interesting feature of having tritium locators built into the titanium frame. What we're looking at here is the Glow Rhino Reactor, and this is the packaging that it will come in. Nice clean packaging, nothing overly crazy, but it is nice. It's got the Glow Rhino logo here on the top. Little ribbon here, a little pull tab on the side. We open that up, and inside is your knife. Now there are going to be two finish options available, either in satin, where it's a bead blasted silver tone titanium frame with the satin blade, or the version that I have here, which is the all black PVD. Nice snappy little folder. Let's get a few of the specifications out of the way first, and then we're going to start talking about what I like or don't like about this knife. First off, the price, $250, but right now, during the launch of these knives, Blade HQ is doing a special introductory offer at $225, so you get to save 25 bucks on the purchase, so that's kind of nice. That's something we generally don't see in the knife world. We don't see introductory prices. That exists in a lot of retail organizations, but we really don't see it happen often with knives, so it's kind of neat. The overall length is 6.9 inches, so yeah, it is a pretty small knife. And to really hammer that home, the blade length is only 2.9 inches, not even a full 3 inches. So this is a really nice small-sized flipper. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this would be legal in 50 states, including California. I'm not sure. I have to check your local state laws on that to be certain. But such a tiny blade length shouldn't pose much of a problem. And the other great thing is, it's only 1 inch tall. So from here to here is only 1 inch. So it takes up almost no room in the pocket. Besides that, it's also extraordinarily lightweight. I don't have a scale here because, as I mentioned before, I'm not a fucking Coke dealer, so I have no need for a scale in my home. But I would estimate this to be right around 2.5 to 3 ounces. It's extremely lightweight. You've got an S35 VN blade. You've got ceramic bearings to assist in the quick opening and smooth closing of the knife. You've got tritium locators on each side of the knife, so you can easily find this knife not only in the dark, but let's say you have this in a backpack or some sort of EDC bag that you carry every day, and it's dark in there. You're going to reach in there and you're going to see that glowing vial of green tritium, which I'll show you, I'll give you a quick demo here in a second, how that's going to look. Now, one thing that's of particular interest to collectors or somebody that's just on the fence about whether they should buy one now or not, they're limited to only 200 pieces per finish. So 400 total, 200 in the black PVD, 200 in the satin. So keep that in mind. Now, let's take a look at what happens when the lights go out, and you get an idea what makes this so interesting. Ta-da! And even this honestly doesn't give you the most accurate representation because the tritium, while it's not extraordinarily bright, tritium never is. It's not like when you charge up superluminova on your watch or Rolex's luminescence on their watches. That's extraordinarily bright, but then it fades very quickly over minutes and hours. With tritium, it's a somewhat dimmer glow. However, it's a constant steady. It does not dim. As a matter of fact, tritium has a half-life of 12 years. So it's going to stay at that same steady glow day or night, 24/7, for at least 12 years. And at around the 12-year mark, it'll step down to about 50% of the brightness that you saw, which is still legible and still it retains its usefulness, its utility, even at that point for the remaining 12 or so years of its life. Once they finally die, they can be replaced. You don't have to worry about that. Glow Rhino has made a name for themselves installing tritium into compasses and firearm night sights for about 30 years. So they're certainly not going anywhere. This company, Glow Rhino themselves, is newer, but the founders of the company have been doing this for about 30 years. And by putting in tritium into compasses and night sights and other various things, they've had a lot of experience with a lot of different types of materials and uses. Now, you look at Glow Rhino themselves, they've started to make their name in the EDC industry by offering services to companies. Let's say you're a monster retailer like Blade HQ. You've got an incredible selling Benchmade knife with an axis lock, and you're like, hey, why don't we put tritium into the axis lock as a locator? That'd be pretty cool. Well, Glow Rhino has done that. Actually, they just did a brand new current release. I think there's something releasing for Blade Show in 3 weeks, or in 2 weeks, with that in there. They just showed it the other day, I think. So anyway, they've been working with knives by installing tubes instead of what you see here, and I'll discuss what you're seeing here in a moment. And adding to other production knives that were currently available. On top of that, they make their own pry bars and keychains and carabiners and things like that that they also install tritium onto as well. So they decided, well, we're having a lot of fun working with all of these different knife brands by installing tritium into their designs. Let's develop our own knife. And it's been quite a while in development, and this is what they've come up with. A small, very sharp, very slicey little titanium frame lock with a somewhat deep carry pocket clip. And I gotta tell you, for a first outing, you don't really expect much, especially for a company that, you know, they're not primarily a knife manufacturer. You don't expect very much. The design is what I would have expected, something very simple. Reminds me of an older Kershaw from maybe a decade or so ago, or maybe even a CRKT from today. It's very simple, very clean, nothing ridiculous done. All they've done is they've laser etched their logo, installed their tritium, and a couple of very simple markings on the blade, but there's nothing extraneous or ridiculous. They also didn't do scales or inlays or anything. They made a simple utilitarian tool, and that's a really good way to look at this. It's not a showpiece, although it can be when you're playing with the tritium, but it really is a nice little utilitarian tool. Now, only a handful of companies in the US hold or can use the license that's required to import tritium into the United States and to install tritium. So it's a really expensive process. If you look around, you'll notice there is a great tritium shortage right now. For a long time, you could order bagfuls of tritium vials from China, you know, of questionable quality, and you would see those installed into keychains and flashlights and things of that nature. And after the whole COVID thing, supply has completely dried up. You cannot get them. And I can tell you from personal experience, because right now I'm collaborating with FocusWorks EDC, creating my Cylon light design. And it was, when I designed it, it was very heavy on having tritium all throughout the entire body and head of the light. Well, we got to making the lights, then went to order the tritium, realized we couldn't do it. And we're actually using Glow Rhino and their services to install our tritium. And I'll tell you why here in a second. Number one, the experience that they've got with the install, but number two, they're importing directly from Switzerland. They're buying Swiss tritium vials, which are the highest quality. There's a greater degree of quality control out of Switzerland than out of China or any other place that you might be sourcing them. So you know, first and foremost, your tritium is going to be of the highest quality. The vials are not going to be susceptible to, you know, they're not leaking or anything like that. They're not filled unevenly. Now, there's two basic ways that you can get tritium vials. They're either in little tubes or flat vials, and these are the flat vials right here. And you can get them in two different ratings, T25 or T100. And this goes back to my watch days very, very long ago. The higher the number, the more potent the tritium. Doesn't necessarily mean it's brighter. You're just going to see more of it because it's more potent. So I'm going to assume that this is T25 tritium in these vials and not T100. T100 is extraordinarily expensive, very cost prohibitive, and it probably would have raised the prices on these tremendously. As you see, it's a nice, quick, smooth flipper. The ceramic bearings certainly do aid in that. Their centering is perfect. The lockup, as long as your finger isn't holding down the lock bar, there's your lockup. You can even see it being all black. It's a little difficult to get in there. And what they're doing is they're installing all of their tritium by hand in a clean room environment. So what that means is they're all dressed up in bunny suits, those Tyvek suits. They're going into a clean room environment where, you know, they've got these big HEPA filters and fans that pull dust and everything up and out through the ceiling so that every vial is perfect. There are no imperfections in there because they have to epoxy these into place, and it has to be completely encased in the epoxy by law. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the NRC, is very, very particular. You don't want to get busted importing tritium without a license. It's very costly and can actually come with jail time, although I've never heard of anybody being put in jail for it. I don't think anybody's probably ever imported that much of it for that to be a concern. But there is quite a substantial fee that you will have to pay if you're busted. And they also have rules about how the tritium has to be handled, how it has to be installed, and the epoxy has to cover the entire thing. It must encase all of the tritium. Look at the finish on that. Really clean, nice black PVD. Full flat grind. It's got a really nice edge to it. It's a very toothy edge. I mean, really toothy. I mean, like, that's probably 120 grit edge. I would have liked to have seen it a little bit smoother, but it will certainly cut, and it has. Back here, you have the raised quarterback spacer that gives you the lanyard opening. There's your clip. It can be removed if you don't want to have a clip on there and just throw it in your pocket or in your bag. Very simple pivot. I like that it's clean on this side. No hole for the hardware. This is a Torx. I believe it's a T6. Might be a T8. It looks like a T6. And notice how they've beveled off all the sharp edges. So it's actually, for a flat-bodied titanium frame lock, it's actually nice and comfortable in the hand. Here it is in my hand. I wear a size large to extra large glove. I can get a full grip on there. My pinky's barely there, but it is on there. For flipping, now with my hands, because they are larger and this is a small knife, I can actually make it disappear in my hand very easily. My fingers want to put pressure on the lock bar, which makes it impossible to open. So I have to be a little conscious just to kind of put my fingers on the pocket clip, and that makes it easier. If you have smaller hands, you're not really going to have that concern, but for me, every now and then I'll grab it and I'll be like, why won't you open? Open! So there's that. So it's a small, lightweight, easily pocketable knife. If you're wearing dress pants that are lightweight, if you're wearing lightweight shorts in the summer, you're wearing a bathing suit, you're wearing sweatpants, this is a great knife for that because it's lightweight, it's not jostling around, you don't have 6, 8, 10 ounces in your pocket, you know, flopping that thing around or anything. It's nice and lightweight. It's so small and lightweight, as a matter of fact, you might kind of forget that you're carrying, especially if you're wearing jeans. You throw that in a jeans pocket, you won't even know it's there. And for a lot of people, that is what they need for a good EDC knife. They need it to be unobtrusive, easy to carry, so that they're more likely to always have it on them. Boy, that thing just rockets out. Listen to that lockup. So you can only light switch it. As far you can't push button it because of the positioning of the flipper tab where it is in relation to the pivot and the detent, and it comes to a sharp point. So it really is made for light switching only. Nice action to it, nice and fast. And like I said, it's a utilitarian knife, nothing extraneous, nothing flashy or showy. Although I do look forward to maybe in the future we might see something a little flashy, maybe something a little showy. You know, even carbon fiber or something I think would be pretty cool in this little guy. I prefer the all black version because it's kind of tactical. So you've got all black and just that little bit of tritium there. It's kind of a neat look. The silver tone looks nice as well. I gravitate toward the black. It's just my personality. So you pick out whichever way you want to go. I will put a link below in the description so you can just click on it and go straight to Blade HQ, straight over to this knife so you can purchase it. I want to thank all of you that have jumped on board on my new Patreon. It is already growing very quickly. That means we're going to be able to afford to have some really badass high-end custom knives out here that you're going to get a chance to win. If you don't know about that, watch my previous upload, my previous video, the Knife Ramble, that included talking about Patreon in the beginning, what the benefits are. You're going to get a chance at some amazing cool tools, whether it be knives, pens, flashlights, all high-end stuff. I mean, for $5, $10, $20 a month that you're putting into Patreon, you could be getting a $2,000 flashlight or custom knife or something. So it's my way of giving back and saying thank you for being a Patreon member. And I'm going to try and work on some extra benefits too, some stickers and patches and things like that. I heard people dig that kind of stuff. I hadn't thought of it myself, but talked to a few friends and they're like, man, people love patches and stickers. They really enjoy that shit. And you know what? So do I. I've got toolboxes full of cool stickers from all my friends who own businesses. And so yeah, I certainly see the draw. Keep your eyes out on Glow Rhino. Go follow them on Instagram. It's at Glow Rhino, and it's traditional spelling, R-H-I-N-O. Nothing crazy like R-H-Y-N-O or anything like that. Follow them on Instagram. Look at all the cool stuff they're doing. If you are an EDC pocket whore and you like carrying lots of stuff like, you know, pry bars and stuff like that, go check them out because you're going to find a lot of really cool tritium goodies in things that you may already have an interest in besides knives. So there you go. They're kind of, I think they're covering a lot of ground here, and I think it's kind of neat. Look forward to see what they're going to be doing in the future. And that's going to be it for me on this video. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Again, a link to my Patreon is in the description on the top line, so please feel free to jump in there. The more Patreon members we get, the more often I get to bring really awesome stuff out here to you. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.